Welcome to the sixth session of the chapter Ecosystem. In this module, we are going to learn about energy flow, trophic level, and food chain. In the previous modules, we had studied the first two functions of an ecosystem, productivity and decomposition. In this module, we are going to study about the third function of ecosystem, that is energy flow. We know that sun is the only source of energy for all ecosystem on earth, whether it is in a terrestrial ecosystem or whether it is an aquatic ecosystem. The solar energy or the sun is the only source of energy, except for deep sea hydrothermal ecosystem. Sun is the source of energy for the rest of the ecosystem. Of all the solar energy which falls on the surface of the earth, only 50% can be utilized for photosynthesis, and that radiation is called as photosynthetically active radiation, or it is called as PAR. It is called as photosynthetically active radiation, or PAR. Of the total PAR, only 2 to 10% can be captured by the plants. See, of the 50% which falls on the surface of the earth, only 50% is available for photosynthesis. Of this 50%, only 2 to 10% can be captured by the plants. So it is very important to know how the solar energy which is captured, this very small amount of solar energy which is captured by the plants, flows through the different organisms of an ecosystem. And all organisms, they are dependent for their food on producers. We know producers are organisms who can produce their own food, and they are called as autotrophs. And the flow of energy in an ecosystem is always unidirectional. There is no backflow of energy. Energy flows from the sun, then to the producers, from the producers to the consumers, and never back. There is no backflow of energy from the consumers to the producers or from the producers to the sun. So we can tell that the flow of energy in an ecosystem is always unidirectional. The green plant in the ecosystem are called producers. Examples of producers in a terrestrial ecosystem are herbaceous and woody plants. And in an aquatic ecosystem, the producers are phytoplanktons, algae, and higher plants. So those who produce their own food are called as producers. Whereas all animals which depend on plants, which satisfy their food needs by consuming the plants either directly or indirectly, are called as consumers. So plants are called as producers, whereas all animals are called as consumers. There are different levels of consumers. The consumers which feed on the producers, that is, they eat the plants directly, they are called as primary consumers or herbivores. Examples are grasshopper, goat. All these are examples of primary consumers or herbivores. That is, they feed on producers. Whereas animals that eat herbivores, that is, they eat the primary consumers or herbivores, they are called as secondary consumers, or the other name given to them are primary carnivores. So those animals who eat another animal are called as carnivores, whereas the animals which eat plants are called as herbivores. So those animals which eat herbivores are called as secondary consumers or primary carnivores. Examples are birds, wolf. And the last category is the animals which eat the primary carnivores, or the secondary consumers or primary carnivores are called as tertiary consumers or secondary carnivores. Examples are man, lion. All these are examples of secondary carnivores or tertiary consumers. So we studied producers are plants who can prepare their own food and sustain the biomass content in the whole ecosystem. Whereas consumers are animals which depend directly or indirectly on plants for their food. Primary consumers or herbivores are animals that feed on producers. Secondary consumers or primary carnivores are animals that feed on herbivores. And tertiary consumers or secondary carnivores are those that feed on secondary consumers or primary carnivores. So this is a picture depicting the producers, the primary consumers, secondary consumers, tertiary consumers, and last quaternary consumers. Again, quaternary consumers are those animals which feed on tertiary consumers. Trophic level. Based on the source of their nutrition or food, organisms, they occupy a specific place in the food chain, and that is known as a trophic level. The position of an organism in a food chain, we know food chain is a series of steps in which an animal eats another organism and is again eaten by another organism. A process of eating and being eaten is called as a food chain. So a specific position an animal or an organism holds in a food chain is called as a trophic level. So producers, they occupy the first trophic level. See, these are the producers, they occupy the first trophic level. The primary consumers or herbivores, they occupy the second trophic level. The secondary consumers or the primary carnivores, they occupy the third trophic level. And tertiary consumers or secondary carnivores, they occupy the fourth trophic level. So each organism, they occupy a specific place based on the source of their nutrition, whether they are eating a plant directly or whether they are eating a herbivore or whether they are eating a primary carnivore. They have a different position, and that is called as a trophic level. Now let us learn about food chain. Food chain is a flow of energy from one trophic level to another trophic level by eating and being eaten. When an organism is eating and again it is being eaten, and this is again being eaten by another organism, what is being transferred? It is the flow of energy. When they are eating food, what is being transferred from one organism to another organism? It is nothing but food, or it is nothing but energy. So the food from one trophic level to another trophic level by eating and being eaten. And basically there are two types of food chain: grazing food chain and detritus food chain, and we will study in detail about these two food chains in the next module. So in this module we have studied the third functional component of an ecosystem, that is energy flow, in which sun is the sole source of energy, and from the sun only 50% is available for photosynthesis, and it is called as PAR, that is photosynthetically active energy. Of the total 50% of PAR, only 2 to 10% is available or can be captured by plants, and this energy has to sustain the whole ecosystem, and this energy has to pass from the producers and to different levels of consumers through a food chain. And the position an organism occupies in a food chain based upon a source of food is called as a trophic level. Thank you.